Hi there. This one is dedicated to a lovely young lady, the daughter of one of my neighbors, who asked me to make her a birthday cake. It was very flattering of her to ask, and she said she wanted it to be a cake with her all-time favorite flavoring, Dulce de Leche. Now, I live in a Brazilian neighborhood, and this has introduced me to a lot of interesting foods and tastes, and this was a chance for me to try this famous sweet from Argentina for the first time, and when I tried it, I knew my life would never be the same. Dulce de leche is Spanish for sweetness of milk, and that's really all it is. It's just milk and sugar mixed together and stirred for a very long time until it reduces and congeals into a very sweet caramel. There's a popular method for making dulce de leche, which is simply taking a can of sweetened condensed milk, placing the unopened can in a pot of water, and boiling it for several hours without opening the can. But doing it the harder way, with regular whole milk and in an open pot, is actually the faster method of producing this tasty sweet, and you also end up with a greater quantity, enough to use in several dishes. Now, milk is notorious for burning, of course, and I considered the best way to ensure the milk would be evenly cooked and stirred without developing a crust of burned milk on the bottom of the pan. Then I realized the same procedure for making a European stew called Scotch broth could be applied here. Scotch broth also burns easily, and they prevent that by using a round bottom pan rather than a flat bottom, so you can stir it easily and constantly. And that's why these Scotch bowls are round in shape, to prevent the barley used in Scotch broth from burning. Now, this bowl is too small for stirring half a gallon of milk, so instead I'm using a heavy cast iron wok. This wok is made by Lodge, and it's big enough for this task. If you have a gas stove, you could get a thin wok at an Oriental store for about $10, and that should do the job just as well. And this will also allow us to use a wok turner, which is shaped especially to fit a wok. The ingredients for making dulce de leche are very simple. Add 2 quarts of milk to a large pot. Then add half a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 4 cups of sugar. Then we mix it together and start stirring, and stirring, and stirring. This is going to be a very slow process, and we need to be ready to stir this pot constantly for over 2 hours. I'm told in Latin American families they used to punish the kids by making them stir the pot for dulce de leche, and I'd agree that any kid would consider it a real punishment to stand in place stirring a ladle for 2 hours. And I do believe we are done. Now you know the secret of one of the most delicious foods in the world, something that you'll never get at a mall food court. There are about 1,000 different ways to use dulce de leche as an ingredient in cakes, in pies, as frosting, as a caramel substitute, or even mix it with chocolate or peanut butter and see what you get. But be careful. This stuff is so addictive, you'll have to force yourself not to simply eat it like this. Thank you for watching.